Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of gold and silver. We're going to go over the dollar, 10-year yield, the precious metals, and then the companies themselves. So let's dive in. Again, it's just my financial opinion. And here we go. So the dollar, weaker dollar today, down 0.66%, which is actually quite substantial. We're coming on down quite dramatically. Looking at the market conditions of a expansionary phase of real estate, usually we see the dollar get weaker, the index. Now, I understand that the index is just a measuring stick against other currencies. So sometimes this gets a little confusing on how the actual value of the dollar versus the index is. But every time in history I've seen an expansionary phase of real estate, especially a large one, the dollar has declined. I'm inclined to say I'm favoring a declining dollar based off of this pattern here. And I know there's a lot of people with a lot of different theories out on the dollar and the value of it and what it's going to do in the future. But the way that I view it is we've got this pattern here. We've broken to the downside of the pattern. We're doing a return move, and that we're eventually going to see this dollar index go lower. That's kind of my take on it. And this is the reasoning why, is because we've got this resistance line coming up. It broke to the downside. We're doing a backtest return move and then a potential head lower given the market conditions in real estate. Real estate's where the money comes from, the housing starts. So I'm sticking to that. We've got the 10-year yield. It's gone up today, 3.34%. We were in this little consolidation pattern that I had drawn out. This is a bullish piercing. We had a small down day, and we're trying to break out of this pattern to the upside. Yields going up, especially at 3.34%, it's going to put pressure on the overall stock market and on technology companies especially. We've debated on where I've talked about in the beginning of this, we'll call it commodity precious metals versus the overall stock market and how it's going to separate. But at the beginning, I think it's going to drag us down a little bit. And then we're going to separate, and then commodities will be a very good spot to be along with precious metals. So commodities, they've rocketed higher. This is the CRB index. So this has been going higher. Gold is a little bit lagged behind it. So I think that we're going to do a little bit of sideways action with my awesome, cool little chart drawing. I think we're going to stay in this kind of range bound between these two lines, and then eventually we'll break to the upside. Is this 100%? No, it's not 100%. But one good thing that I'll say today, we've had lots of selling pressure coming on down. We had a contraction in the opening and closing price. We've got a little bit of buying pressure. We've tried to sell off today, but the sellers didn't gain any traction to really push this lower. We have a hammer candlestick. So we want the down days to be small, mute, and we want the big buying pressure to come in for us to go higher. So everything is looking okay for a move higher at this time. We'll see tomorrow what the sellers do and what the buyers do and see what patterns we put in. But in the very short term, it's sideways. In the big long-term perspective, we've got this big pattern that we're trying to break out. And usually when you come from the downside up, this is a continuation pattern for a move to the upside. The market conditions support a move to the upside, and that's what I'm looking for. So that's my paradigm and my bias, so to speak. Same with silver. Looking at silver on a daily candlestick basis, we put in a hammer candlestick pattern. If the sellers were going to just come in here and whomp this thing, they would have finished strong and finished lower, but the buyers came in and bought this back up. So I think this is still looking pretty good. We've got a nice hammer candlestick pattern. The buyers came in and bought it the back half of the day. So I think it looks okay. It doesn't look bad. Everything's still intact. And same with platinum. Platinum's just moving sideways. We've got, it's a struggle between the buyers and sellers up here, but the sellers haven't pushed this thing lower. They haven't come out and sent any bearish piercings or bearish engulfing patterns. We've only got wicks at the top. So I think we're still okay to move higher if the buyers push this higher. Everything's aligned and it still looks okay. Looking at Karora Resources, this is an individual gold stock. It matches the gold price itself, I think we're going sideways here. And that's what we're doing. I don't see any reversal candlesticks to go lower. We could potentially still go up. But I'd like to see, you know, the buying pressure continue. Big up days, small down days is what I look for. EXK, this one looks like we could head a little bit lower. We got some selling pressure here. This is a bearish engulfing. We still have some selling pressure. It finished quite strong. We are at, I think we're at support here. Let me look. Yeah, we still have some support through here. Looking across. This does look a little shoulder, head, shoulder-ish-esque, where we might have one last downward move before a move higher. Yeah, that is there. And what I mean by that is, you know, you kind of draw this across here. And if I can grab it, come on, guys. Draw this across here, and we've got a shoulder, a head, and then another shoulder type deal going. We could head lower here, guys. It's a possibility. So SILJ, I'm sure it's got the same characteristics. Yep, bearish engulfing. This one's got a little wick at the bottom. It's not horrible, but it's not good. I'm indifferent on it, guys. I'm indifferent. GDX is right at support, and we're right at this kind of falling wedge. We are hugging the downside. We're right at support, and we're just all mashed up against the support line here. MMNGF, this one fell out of looking at a big picture view. We fell out of this pattern to the downside. We have another upright, you know, well, let's say not a megaphone, but a funnel type pattern that goes to the tip and then drops to the downside as it's ascending wedge. We've come to the downside. We got some wicks at the bottom. Looks like some buyers are trying to buy this thing up a little bit and slow this movement for potentially a move higher eventually. But it's slowing down for a bottoming process. This is Koya Silver, KUYAF, just bopping sideways. This one actually looks pretty good, bullish engulfing, and then the small sell-off. And then today it was just a little bit of a down day today. So that one looks good. Discovery Silver, a little bit of a wick at the bottom. I think it's going to probably try to do some sideways chopping action here in the short term. First Majestic Silver, here's our down day today. I had drawn that downward. We've got support under here, so I'm hoping we can get a bounce off this support to the upside. Newmont, it still looks good to move on higher, even though we had a small down day. It's still a bullish engulfing. It probably wants to head higher. That's where I'm sticking with. Mag Silver's not looking too good. I drew that it was probably going to head lower. It went down 3.85% today. I think we're going to head a little bit lower. We'll see where we end up down here. Yamana Gold. This guy's just in this big pattern again. It's a falling wedge. And we're just waiting for gold and silver to go up, I think. But this is a falling wedge. Usually these break to the upside. So it's aligned for a break at any point. Impact Silver, a smaller Mexican silver producer. And looks like we're just dipping down below the support line a little bit. A little bit of a sell-off. It did finish quite strong. We'll see where this goes, but this could head lower. The silver companies are looking a little bit weak, guys. Aftermath's just trading sideways. Not much to talk about there. Arcana Silver, I would say more or less sideways. PLG is looking a little bit weak. I don't know where the buyers are. We need gold and silver and all these guys to turn on up. And I think we'll see a little bit more strength out of it. Sandstorm Gold, I put a little bit lower here yesterday. We're down 2.16% today. We'll see where this thing bottoms out at. Franco-Nevada faring a little bit better as it's up 0.76%. That's FNV. We're right at the support line of a very large pattern. We're right there. And it doesn't look bad. I mean, we've got the smaller down days. It's contracting up like it wants to turn and move on up. But I think we need the precious metals to move on up for this to move on up. This is EMX Royalty. I still think that this is probably going to head lower. It's going to come up. It's right where I drew that pattern, and I think it's going to come back down a little bit. We've got stronger selling pressure than the buying pressure bouncing back up. So usually these kind of roll over for the short term. Teuton Resources, I've got that going down. It was down 1.35%. hopefully we can find a reversal candlestick here at some point to move it on up. Wheat and precious metals, I've got a rollover here, 1.65% down today. In the short term, we'll see where this thing heads. Again, I'm still kind of like looking for a bounce. But remember, guys, I'm talking on a very short-term basis. It doesn't look horrible from this point on. It still just needs to throw a bottoming pattern to move on up. That's all I'm looking for. Gold royalty, again, I've got a kind of a rollover, down 4%, just like it did. A little bit of a downward movement, but we'll see what we throw tomorrow. I don't really have a clear direction in the short term after that pullback today. Metallo royalty, it's down at support. There's your falling wedge. They're putting in all these falling wedges, so falling wedges are good for a break to the upside. I just don't like that they're all hugging the bottom of the wedge. Mavericks metals, this one already broke to the downside, did a retest, and it's been aimlessly meandering around. That's what I say, aimlessly meandering around. Royal gold, looking at, we're on the dailies. A little bit of a sell-off today. There's no topping pattern here. It still looks okay. And then Cisco Gold Royalty OR, I had this coming back lower. I would say sideways to maybe a hair lower, like we're going to bounce around in this area here until I see a clear direction of a candlestick. But this is a big bearish piercing. It shot us lower. We came back up, and I think we're going to kind of bounce around a little bit. But that's what I have for today for gold and silver. I wouldn't say it looks very strong, guys. I would say it looks sideways to lower for the majority of the companies. I'd really like to see the precious metals do something here. They've been going sideways and sideways and sideways, which puts the mining companies in the wasteland of I don't know where to go. But I think if we get some buying pressure in gold and silver and platinum, platinum still looks good, silver looks good, and gold still looks like it's good to go up. I think if we can get some momentum there, the mining companies will follow. That's my take. The dollar has been weak. If we can get a weaker dollar, that's a tailwind. And I think with interest rates going up, I think that's actually a good thing. We're just being dragged down by the overall market right now. The overall market's going to have to come lower. It's going to come lower. The ARK-K fund, the NASDAQ, a lot of these companies like Facebook getting smoked, they're going to have to come lower. And if this was a blowout crash, what we would see are yields diving lower. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing yields going up. They're going up because of inflation. Inflation's the driver, and yields are going up, and bonds are being sold off. Bonds are not being the safe haven with the stock market pulling back. So when people realize this, eventually, we're just ahead of the curve, I think. Once they figure that they can't go into bonds, and then they can't go into stocks because they're going down, money's going to rotate into precious metals. That's what it's done in the past. So I'm waiting for that rotation into commodities and to precious metals, and that's what's going to lead us higher, I think, for a good while. So I'm just waiting for the rate hikes to come. I think we're in a wasteland till rate hikes come. Once rate hikes come, I think commodities are game on. So long that inflation remains robust. The only thing I'll say here is there could be a little bit of a gap between the stimulus that came into the system that caused a lot of inflation and then the loaning that's coming in the real estate market. I don't know what that transition necessarily looks like. We may be going through it right now. And when that loaning comes through, when interest rates go up and the inflation comes from the loaning against the new homes, the housing starts, that's when I think precious metals are gonna get a kick in the butt and move on higher. Again, I'm positioned in it. I'm not trading in and out. I'm just holding on. Thumbs up for the content. Thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.